Cannabis Podcast right here on Respect My Region. You know what it is. It's the highest host, Adam L. chilling out right here. We got another amazing episode with another legacy grower. This man's been growing for over 40 years. I'm going to make sure it was growing cannabis for over 40 years. Part of multiple states, been growing all over the country, has seen how it goes from the traditional backyard grows to the full commercial grows with big facilities. Talking about the one man who you could see on the screen right now, Byron Staton, man. Thank you for pulling. Staton.
Staton it is, my friend. Yeah.
We'll go with Staton.
Yeah, let's go.
It's just close to Satan, and you look really nice, so I don't want to say that.
That's funny because that used to be a line, right?
Byron Staton. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you hanging out.
Yeah.
I see you're smoking. What are you smoking on right now? I like to see that.
Big 2-gram blunts with like glass tips, right?
Oh, we fancy.
All high end, right? Just trying to keep it real, brother.
So it says you've been growing for like 40 years. Now, have you been growing cannabis? Because you look like you're, in your like 30s right now. So,
dude, I'm 52. Thank you. But I am 52. I was born in Kentucky, man. I've been growing since I was 12 and
growing weed, cannabis.
Growing weed, man. Growing weed. No, so
How?
I'm the old guy now. Everybody else is young in this, right?
Come on, you ain't growing no 12-year-olds right now. How did you get involved as a 12-year-old growing weed in Kentucky?
So look, all my family in Kentucky and Appalachia, you're either growing weed or making liquor, okay? Like you're doing one of the two. There is no money to be had there, so everybody makes money any way they can. You can't hold them back from it. It's just everybody's got to feed the family, right?
Okay. So your family was doing the weed? My
family was doing weed and liquor in Kentucky from long time ago, man.
So here's little Brian growing up, the cannabis fields were already on the farm?
Well, my cousins and everybody, they're not really on that farm. They take them off that farm, right? So you just haul water and stuff as a young kid into the woods, right? We kind of leave those kind of details out where it was grown, right?
Okay, so it was just in the mountains. It was just kind of off-grid.
In the mountains, yep, just like you grow it anywhere. Take it back in the woods, haul some water back, and feed it some creek water and make it grow.
It's a weed. It'll grow if you give it some love.
It'll weed.
Did you, as a 12-year-old, like, I know you're farming. It's regular. Did you know it was cannabis, or was it just like, oh, it's another plant we're just growing?
At 12, you just got to think. At 12, like that was 82, man. Like everybody knows what weed was in 12 years old in 1982, right? Like let's not be strange to it, right? Like it definitely
that jazz cabbage.
Yeah, like it definitely was a little more known what we were doing back then. My cousins would just tell me, let's grab some water and go, boy.
And you're like, all right, let's go.
Let's go. Whatever gets it done, right?
So, Lil Brian, you're here growing up in Kentucky. Were you like, I'm going to be a farmer for the rest of my life? Or
No. Actually, I turned out to be a mechanic and worked for Mitsubishi for like 19 years as a mechanic, man, and just grew weed because weed and cars have always been together, like everybody tries to deny it, but like weed, cars are all, everybody says, how'd you go from cars to weed? And I go, well, where you been? Like weed and cars always been together.
Did you have a passion for cars? Did you like cars, or would you just
I love cars, man. I still love cars. Got a garage full. Like, yeah, like it's still my thing, right? So it's still weed and cars. There's no other passion in my life.
So you're growing up in Kentucky, helping the farm. You have a passion for cars. You're going to school. I'm guessing you're a good student, just chilling out. Yep. You're like, I'm gonna be a mechanic. You went to, because I know you went to school and everything too, right?
I did. I actually got recruited by Mitsubishi in the 80s because nobody would work for them and everybody wanted to work GM Ford.
Everyone America.
Yeah, that's what it was. So I got recruited and I signed up for a Japanese car company, and 19 years later I left there, right? So
dang, and Mitsubishi, those cars were. I remember when the Spider came out, right? Didn't Mitsubishi make a Spider or some
yeah,
shit?
convertibles and stuff.
Yeah, I remember it was like the late 1900s, and I was like, damn, look at that car.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I
And
did a
then,
lot of
so
work.
you're going from cars, you got weed, and you're like, you know what? I'm tired of this. What made you drop mechanic, stop being a mechanic, and go? Or you were actually like you were in product development in the automotive sector, right?
I was, yeah. So I did all product development. They sent me to engineering school, right? So I
Okay,
went through it. Yeah, yeah. I'm an educated legacy. I'll tell you that, right?
I
So
love it.
um, I left Mitsubishi after 19 years. They bought us all out, and then I moved to Seattle, man, and went up in the mountains where I heard it was real, and where still black market, and then caregivers started coming out. So that's kind of how all that trip ran.
So you're like, after being a mechanic, you're like, I love this plant. Cannabis has been in my life. I'm going to the West Coast. Fuck this Midwest shit. It's legal there. There's more lax. The flavors are strains. I'm learning about all this shit. Let me
Right.
go. Let me go there.
Yeah, and I was 40, right? And I was like, okay, let's go find the real deal. And so I moved to Seattle, and I actually went back to school and got a degree in botany.
What, you just like started life all over at 40?
All over at 40, dude. So that is real, right? Degree proves it. Actually ended up being the professor in Skagit Valley College for sustainable agriculture, right? So
What?
yeah, so right there north of Seattle, man, that's where I did all my work in the beginning.
How'd
So
you end up in Seattle? Did you have friends over there, or were you just like, I'm just blindly going?
now my kids were there, man.
They
So
just
my
moved to
so my
Seattle.
kids with my first wife was in Seattle. They were growing up, getting ready to go to junior high school. I said, where else we gonna go? Let's go to Seattle and make it happen, right?
Brian, you're like, you know what? Weed's legal in Washington right now.
Yes.
We could probably figure some shit out. And you
It was
decided to
good.
go back to school
Yeah.
and
I knew
got
what
a
was gonna
degree.
happen. I knew what was going to happen. I saw it coming. So my wife was like, "You're going to go back to school at 40?" I was like, "Look, I need to get some paper under me so we can make this real, right?" Like, so being like legacy growing, being able to grow weed is a little bit different when you got some paper behind you. Why? I haven't figured it out yet. Okay,
The
but
Chads like that documents.
it did work with the Chads and the Brads, my friend. You know, but like, look, it was all planned, right? So, when people hear the story now, my wife even, she'll tell you, she's like, he planned it all, dude. He did it just like he said he would do,
You
right?
saw it coming.
Yeah, and I knew it was going to go legal. And like, look, here we are. This many years later, I'm almost a decade. I've been commercial now, right? And trying to navigate all those different people and lawyers and money people and everything has been quite a task.
That's crazy. So 40 years old, pick up, start over, get a degree in botany and sustainable agriculture because you figured out, you know what, I'm gonna step up my growing game. These states are getting legal. I see the process going. You saw the future, and then you just said, how do I get legal? And then you became a legal grower in the state of Washington.
Yeah, so I started in Washington, then I did some projects in Oregon and like mid Sacramento area in California. And then I just started building a name from there. And then when the East Coast built up, I mean, the phone just started ringing, right?
You started making a name for yourself.
Yeah, and like soon as the East Coast built up, I got a bunch of phone calls real quick, and most of us legacy guys on the West Coast, they're like, "We're not going to the East Coast, and we're not dealing with all the Chads and the Brads and the money thing," and because it was becoming very hard to navigate, really.
Right, because you got like people. So I want to talk about that a little bit because it goes from like a passion and a love for the plant, and realizing the culture and the people that actually enjoy it, and then you start seeing it getting more legal, and then you got more corporations getting involved, and little people who are exploiting the culture for money, and you have. I mean, it's inevitable; it's going to happen. So
Well,
you're like,
dude, that's what I was going to say. It's inevitable. Here's the thing: if you're going to build facilities like that and try to take this commercially legal, you're going to have a lot of weed, right? The only way to grow a lot of weeds in big places or big factories, just to say, right? I mean, that's just what's going to happen. And the only way that's going to happen is money guys are going to come in, right? None of us legacy guys could afford a $40 million building. Okay, let's be honest.
Facts. And that's just what we want to do because we don't want them growing a bunch of mids and flooding the market with a bunch of bullshit.
Right. And you know, I tell all the big guys now that even ask me, I'm like, why you guys just need a real operator? If you just pay a real operator and let him do his thing, it'll probably turn out really good for you. I've been lucky. Apothca, everybody that's came my way lets me come in the building, lets me do my thing, lets me run it how I want to run it. And look, they're $140 million businesses now, you know, because they let me do what I wanted to do. Right. The guys that try to hold us legacy guys back, I mean, that just won't work. Right. It's like, we really know how to treat the culture and the people. And if we accumulate that, like they will follow.
When did you first start getting high, Brian? You're out here growing weed at 12. When did you actually first smoke it?
I've been smoking pot since like 14.
Okay, so you didn't smoke it right away when you were growing it on the mountainside in Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, 12 years old, all my cousins did. I mean, it took me a couple of years to catch up, but it didn't take long.
What finally made you do it after being around it for a couple of years and all your family and smoke? What you were just like, all right, now it's time?
Well, no, I mean, it's just always, you know, you're always trying to experiment with a cigarette or with a weed or, you know, like, dude, at 14 in the 80s, that's not that young, dude. Okay. Like now 14's young, right? 14 in the 80s was a whole different story, my friend.
It's so funny to say that. I look at some of these, like, I'm sure you scroll on social media and they show like these nostalgic videos of like seniors from like the 90s or in high school or like seniors from the 80s. And they look like they're fucking 40 years old and like full ass adults already.
Dude, we like it is so much so, you know, I have 6 kids, dude. So, you know, a lot of kids. I only have one kid left at home. She's 14. Dude, it's way different. Like she doesn't know near the shit that I knew. I mean, I look at it like we must have kept her in a closet or something, but like she don't have near the experience I had when I was that age.
Well, because I mean, with the technology these days and everyone being able to get everything at their fingertips, no one really goes outside and lives life.
No, that's the problem, my friend. Like, but you can't change everything, right? You can only change what's around you, right?
Right. We can always just adjust and adapt. And it seems like you've been doing that through this
That's
whole journey.
Yeah, that's all you can do. I mean, when you deal with all the Chads and the Brads and the New Deal, there's a lot of money involved and there's a lot of navigation that you have to do as a legacy grower through that, right? Like they want to tell you how to grow. They want to tell you how much weight should come out. They want to tell you when to turn the lights on, when to turn them off. And like, if they really wanted to succeed, they'll just let the guy do his job, right? That's what I tell all the big boys now, whoever you hire, you bet on the horse, bet on him and run on him, right? Like if you bet on the horse, let him do his job.
Right. Why'd you hire me, dog? You wanted the professional. That's what a smart investor would do is like, look, you're the expert. You do it.
And I think we're moving in that direction, you know, with guys like me, Burner, like all of us older guys now coming up talking about it. Hopefully they'll learn that you got to have a real operator to operate, right? And, you know, I think there's some legacy guys out there that are really good. I don't know if they can navigate the Chads and the Brads too, because that's quite difficult.
Do you remember the first strain you were growing? Did it have any name or were you guys just
growing? Through that Kentucky like ditch weed back then. I mean, I know what I first started growing once I got into like the big game up in Seattle and stuff. You know, I was growing G13 and Grape Ape and like all of that first stuff. Yeah, all that first stuff that was in Washington, you know, like that's what we were making our drive on.
Yeah, I remember the PNW flavors were always like, I remember because I'm from LA, I'm in SoCal, right? So we always had like the gases and OGs. And then like it would always be like the fruity like shishka berries and shit from like the Pacific Northwest and like all the fruitier strains. So
and like back when I grew up, really the stuff coming out of the Pacific Northwest I always looked up to, but it was like I was in like the 90s hippie game, right? Like, you know, when everybody was touring around, smoking pot still, you know, like the 80s was still happening, right? Like and all that bud that was coming up out of BC where I was living in Washington, all that stuff was just like kind bud, just like we didn't really have names. It was still weed, man.
Yeah.
So and if it was real good, they call it a kind bud or something, and then it was real green and real stinky and probably coming out of the mountains up in BC.
So that's why you went to Seattle, not because your kids were there. You're like, young, let me get closer to this Canadian border.
It was. I mean, to be honest, it was like the best dope I had smoked in the 80s and 90s, and I knew it. And I was like, okay, the Midwest was all brick weed, right? It was all brick with seeds and, 10 pounds looked like a phone book, right? That's how the old days was. And when I go out to Seattle, like a pound was like as big as a soccer ball, and I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Right.
Like, this stuff ain't smashed and being delivered by semi, right?
It smells pretty. It's fluffy. Yeah. I remember sometimes those BC nugs were so fucking dense, like you would throw them against your wall and it would chip the paint.
Oh, dude, I still grow like that in a greenhouse out here in Massachusetts. I mean, I still grow pretty hard, but it definitely knocked your head, right?
Yeah. Do you have a preference? Do you like indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, mixed light? I know you've been growing for 40 years.
Man, I like it all, really. I've been really successful in a greenhouse, and I think that's the shift of the industry, really. Like now I'll bring in the smart side and tell you, like, I think the whole industry is going to shift in that direction just because of how much it costs to produce a gram of weed, right? And the way the prices are going with compression and everything that's happening everywhere. I think people just hasn't got it yet. Like greenhouse would be the ultimate preference for costs to produce, right? Outdoor would definitely be cheaper than that, but like I think there's a little better quality done inside a greenhouse at this time, right?
When you can control the environment.
Well, look, you're not going to control a greenhouse. You're only going to control so much. You know what I mean? Like you can turn some extra lights on, but I don't run them with air conditioning and all that shit like all these new guys do. Like I'm a fresh air grower now, and everybody comes in, they're like, how does he do it? How's the bugs? How's this? I'm like, dude, look, open the windows and let it grow, right?
Right. It's all natural.
So, well, I tell everybody this. Do you know why? I'll just bring my age now. Do you know why we went to grow pot inside?
I do. Yeah, it's to hide from the law enforcement when it became illegal.
Bam! You're the only guy that really got. I mean, nobody answers that correctly very often. So that's my Chad Brad question to see where they are. Right? I go. Do you know why we grew indoors, man? And they go like, for environmental reasons and for this. I go, no, we was hiding from the cops, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like the sun is the ultimate like light for any plant to grow, and that's what you're trying to do is replicate the sun. That's like I enjoy outdoor terps a lot. I feel like the terpenes outdoors are way better than indoors. I don't know if maybe I'm crazy, but
so like Joey and Mitch was just out at my place. I have a greenhouse and an outdoor in Massachusetts that I currently operate, right? I pulled 10% more THC out of the same plant outside than I did in the greenhouse.
What?
It is what it is, right?
Science.
So it's just like one of those things. It's like that stuff will grow anywhere, okay? You just got to take care of it and give it some TLC and put a really good team with the product, right? Like, I'm only as good as I am. I'm nobody without a team, dude. Like everybody tries to say, is it a one band show? No, like I have 40 people that work for me, right? That like do it every day. I like, look at these hands. I ain't potting plants anymore. Okay. Like, come on, bro. Let's not.
I got the degrees. I went to school. I got the botany degree. I got the sustainable agriculture. Like, listen to me. I know what the fuck we're talking about here.
It ain't even really that. It's just like I put the time in now. I tell the guys, I said, put the plant in the pot and put it on the table, dude. That's how we get this done, right?
And is it like soil or rock wool? What are we?
Well, I'm a cocoa. I grow cocoa. Yep. I grow cocoa. And look, I tell everybody, growing inside just don't make sense. You want to build a $60 million building. You tell me what other plant grows inside other than some lettuces and stuff that we're doing these days. Like back in the day, nothing grew outside. It was either outdoor or in a greenhouse.
Yeah. No one did the indoor lights. I mean, and I know you were talking about, it's not you, it's a whole team. I want to give a little shout out to all the
Yeah,
growers also, because
yeah, please
that is a
do.
lot of work. And you talking about, outdoors and greenhouse. I don't even know how much. I didn't get to see the facility, but I'm sure it's huge. And I know it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. So I appreciate you and the team and all the growers out there. If it's one plant or 1,000 plants, indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, basement, closet, like, appreciate y'all. Keep growing, because without you guys, none of us would be smoking. None of us would be out here living this life and having this culture alive, dude.
And that's what I tell, like, please, like, everybody should teach another brother, okay? Like, please don't keep that information in, right? Like, if you got to help somebody navigate through the commercial setting, like, help him navigate, man, like, whatever it takes. Me, I just want to bring as many young guys up through the system, guys, girls up through the system, and watch them make good money like me too. I just want to see it real across the whole board. You know what I mean? Like, it just don't need to be investors and stuff. There's a lot of good people out there. If they put the time in, they're going to make it.
Not a lot of people are like that, though, Brian, man. A lot of people like
Man.
to keep that shit to themselves, and a lot of people
Yeah.
have egos in this space, and they just think they're
Hey,
the best, and no one's as good as them in their way or no way. And
hey,
I appreciate you
I
wanting to
said they
spread
all
that.
can grow good. Everybody's like, I'm not the best grower. I said everybody can grow good, man. You know what I mean? You just got to put the time in.
Oh yeah, because I noticed you do have a passion for teaching. You said you were a teacher, right? You taught at a Valley College.
Yeah, I taught at Skagit Valley right there in Seattle.
Well, and you're teaching people how to grow. You're just like telling them all the tips
Yeah,
and
just
tricks.
agriculture, man. Tomatoes, strawberries, berry, whatever it is, man. Just trying to spread what. So at that time, we couldn't teach about cannabis at the college because they can't get government funding, right? So I was teaching about lettuces and tomatoes and berries, but all the credits was full at the school, so everybody was laughing because they've been selling the most credits in sustainable ag than they ever did. And I was like, everybody knows that I'm here teaching. Okay. So, uh, teaching's
They
teaching, my friend. Don't matter what it is. Right. It's
so
really
what?
culture. So everybody says it's teaching. I was like, look, man, the only reason I did so well at that is like, I can relate to the people and I come from the bottom to the top and I didn't forget the way. Right.
Yeah, man, that's fucking amazing. We appreciate that. What would be like some of your advice to anyone getting into the gross that want to be a grower right now because it's a legal market and they feel like this is the road they want to take? Because I know it's kind of crazy right now in the legal space.
It's kind of crazy. It's a lot to navigate, right? So, all the young people that I bring up, and I brought up plenty to this day that will say that I took them to six figures, right? Uh, they are really good growers and they put a lot of time in. I tell them all in the beginning is like, I'm gonna need 2 years of your life. Okay, you're gonna have to give everything you got for a couple years to make it for the future, right? And there's some that go, look, I don't want no part of that. And there's a few of the few that'll say, sign me up, boss.
And then so you filter them out right away. You're like, look, at this is not like an easy task. This is
If
gonna
you
take
want it,
time.
go. I tell everybody, yeah, if you want it, let's go get it, right?
Yes. Because I mean, there's a lot of patience that comes with growing. I've tried it. I've helped a lot of friends with their grows and a lot of patience. I don't have the patience to sit in a room with even like two tables, let alone a fucking whole greenhouse or where or outdoor a fucking people
Right,
have fucking 10 acres. I'm like, what are you like? What? This is
right.
crazy.
A
This
lot
is
of
like
moving.
dedication.
It's still farming, right? So,
Yes.
it's farming no matter what, if you're growing tomatoes or lettuce or cannabis, it is all farming. You're going to be a farmer at that point, right? It's going to be hot. It's going to be cold. It's going to be wet, like it's going to be dirty. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be
The
this.
issues, yeah,
Yeah.
molds, PM,
Yeah.
yes.
So, all the new guys coming in now, I mean, they see PM for the first time. They don't even know what to think, right? Like,
They
they're
think
like,
it's crystals. They're like, look how frosty my shit is.
dude, like, yeah, that, and they don't even know how to deal with those kind of problems growing weed,
Right.
right? And you're like, when you grow 10,000 plants, I mean, stuff happens, dude. There's bugs, there's molds, there's mildews, and
Right.
and it,
We get
and it,
floods, the power goes out, the AC breaks.
every one of those things happens. If you're gonna grow weed, you'll experience every one of those scenarios, right? Over and over and over and over again.
Right? Some people are shady, fuck up your crop, they take your crop, law enforcement. Have you had any issues with law enforcement? I mean, you come from Kentucky. I can only imagine.
No, so I really haven't. I mean, I played a pretty smart game my whole career, really. I mean, I'm not the dumbest one in the groups, right? I definitely watched. I wasn't no street hustler. Okay, that's not who I am, right?
I mean, you were kind of helping people out when you were a kid, right? Because you were growing in the mountains. How did you get rid
of course, but I was just helping them. That's really like that ain't street doing it, right? You know,
I was just helping. I wasn't actually out there.
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't touch the plants. I only watered it, right?
Yeah. I love it, dude. But that started the passion, I guess, right? It's like,
you know, I come from a farming family. You know, I mean, I never thought I would be a farmer, which is the hilarious part. But like they always say, you go back to your roots at some point.
I mean, it's really hard to get away from this lady that always, once she's entered your life, it's really hard to like say no to her. She doesn't talk back. She's always there for you when you're like happy or sad, and she just knows what to make you feel. And it's like, yo, I can't leave you.
Do you know how many times my wife's looked at me and said, please, let's not do this anymore? Right? Like she looks and says, please, can we stop the train anytime? I'm like, I've told her several times, okay, baby. And then I'd be like, I need you to take me to the airport. Right. So we've had many of those airport trips when I wasn't supposed to do weed anymore.
And you still made it happen. She still comes around. And what you up to right now? You're like you got a bunch of facilities. What are you up to?
Yeah, so I'm just in Massachusetts. I've been running, you know, a big 45,000 foot greenhouse with acre outdoor. I've been commercial 4 years here with 3 dispensaries. You know, I've been busy, man. You know. And now I'm getting ready to make a move into a bigger position. So, you know, there's a lot going on in the future, my friend.
Well, how do you feel right now having the dispensary and being a grower and knowing the market, going from, you know, the traditional market to anyone just trying to get it to now people with like fancy packaging and percentages? Like, how do you feel about THC percentages on plants and on packaging?
Really, THC percentages? Well, I was going to do something in Boston to change it up, but my owners wouldn't let me do it. I was going to change the low dollar weed to high THC products and the low THC to high dollar products.
What the? You're like, Mike, let's just fuck everyone up.
Just so everybody would be like, okay, I guess it's not all the truth. I don't even know how they would accept it, you know?
Yeah, that's so funny, dude. You really presented that to
I presented it and they just wouldn't go for it, my friend. You know, everybody still thinks THC wins, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll change pretty soon. I mean, I think it's getting more educated. So, you know, terps will win in the end, right? So, you know, everybody's just got to find their way. I think they're just a little lost right now.
Yeah, they're just not educated right now. People seem to be more informed of what is going on with the plant.
Yeah, and I think they'll figure it out. I tell everybody I've grown a Flow OG at 18%. I can smoke it every day and it gets me just where I need to go, right? And some of the 35s, they really don't even get me high, man.
Yeah, they look pretty. I call them like a magazine or like internet.
They are. That's what they are. They're model weed. I call it. It's all model weed, right?
It looks good, but has no personality.
It don't. Just like looks good at a view, right?
Yeah. What are you smoking right now? What do you like?
So I was just smoking that Flow. You know, that's.
I haven't heard that in so long. The Flow,
dude. It's my favorite girl. It's a Flow OG. I've grown it for like 2 decades almost, right?
Yeesh. You got the same mom, or you just been?
I've been tissuing, you know.
Okay. Right? Oh well, yeah. You science.
Yeah, I'm a science guy, man. So I've been tissuing and hanging out and just keeping it real, right? Keeping the disease down and just keeping it all flourishing, man.
Well, how many states have you legally grown in?
So 5 now. Yeah. So
5.
Missouri, getting ready to do Ohio, did Oregon, Washington, Massachusetts, Maine.
That's 6.
Okay, well, okay, buddy. 6 it
Half a
is.
dozen. I counted. You lied to me.
Yeah, that's all right. It ain't a lie.
Damn, did you ever think, Lil Brian, growing up, watering some weed in the fucking mountainside, that you're going to be growing legal weed in 6 different states and just keep on growing and expanding your.
Not for 40 years, not until I was 40, my friend. I never thought we'd get to do that, right? So, my mom's 86 now, and she laughs on the phone. She says, I remember when I told you that weed would never get you nowhere.
Yeah. And you're like, look at me now, mama.
Now we're growing weed in every state under the sun, right? And like it's getting more acceptable by the day.
That's fucking awesome, dude. I really appreciate you taking time to hang out with us. I know we got a limit here on the show. I could talk to you for fucking hours. I already feel it,
It's
Brian.
all
Like,
good, man.
we barely got into any stories. We just scraped the surface of your journey, dude. What you got going on? What's coming up next? Do you do social medias? Are you out here? What's happening?
No, so I'm just really getting in the tissue culture game now, kind of moving to the next level. I like, that's how I just always want to keep pushing forward, right? So, getting ready to do a couple states for another organization and grow out my tissue and genetics and, you know what I mean? And try to get my family to generational money, my friend.
Let's go. What about mushrooms?
Oh, that's a good subject, man. Like I've been doing my work. I just don't know if it's ready commercially or not. I would love to be one of the first to jump in that ring.
Okay, so you just I know, because I know there's been some commercial grows for some. I know some states have kind of regulated it and tolerated it now.
Massachusetts, in the Cambridge area here, where the college is, they allow it now. So I mean, like, look, it's moving in that direction. I see everybody here in Massachusetts is playing around with it right now, right?
Yeah.
So microdosing and like all the new shroom stuff. Look, I'm gonna kick back and see where it goes and keep my research up, right? Like
In California, it's getting packaged and grown out and mylared out and branded and
it's
in
coming,
chocolates
man.
and gummies and raw forms and pills and.
It's coming. And in the 80s, they'd throw us on the ground and like we go to jail for that shit, man.
Yeah.
So,
It's definitely changed since the late 1900s.
It's definitely changed. Look, I don't even go to a hotel if I ain't allowed to smoke anymore, right? So I only go back and forth to Vegas, bro.
He said, I gotta smoke. What you mean I can't consume it? If I can smoke cigarettes, I can smoke weed.
Yeah, exactly. Come on now. We gotta get real. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'm getting to wrap it up. We out here. It's been time. Byron Staton, not Satan. It's Staton.
Yes,
out here growing weed for the whole country. In every state. He's coming for you.
Thank you, my friends. I appreciate you.
Listen, thank you. And thank you for your whole squad and your crew and all the growers out there. We appreciate you. Keep making it happen. Everyone here, I respect my region. You already know the Legacy Cannabis Podcast. We're doing the North American tour too. We got a couple more months left. Bunch of products, bunch of content, bunch of podcasts. Y'all are amazing. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.
See you, everybody.